Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us for the first Forbes School of Business and Technology Colloquium of the 2021 Colloquia series, in which we will discuss what students want most from faculty and how do we give it to them. I would like to welcome our presenter, Debra Culler, core faculty and professor in the Bachelor's and Master's Human Resources Management programs within the Forbes School of Business and Technology. Since this webinar is pre-recorded, as we're doing things a little different this year, you are highly encouraged to post freely and actively in the chat, as our speaker is in the room and is open to answer questions and converse with you live and in real time while presenting. At the end of the presentation, there will also be a brief live Q&A and/or chance for further discussion with our speaker as well. And now, please enjoy this presentation, and again, your participation in the chat is highly encouraged.
Hi, and welcome to What Students Want Most and How Do We Give It to Them? Today, we're going to talk a little bit in depth and take a deeper look at motivation. Teachers spend years of hard work and we spend thousands of dollars to become experts in our content areas, right? We have degrees, we have teaching certifications that we're working to attain to prove that. We work to develop curriculum maps, we have teaching calendars, and we're trying to make sure that we cover the appropriate standards. On top of this, we endure hours of professional development so that we're well-versed in our current educational realm. We collaborate with our colleagues, and we try to make sure that we have our best practices in place in the classroom. We have assessments to track progress of students, and sometimes when these things don't work, we have intentional interventions. We work to get the students back on track. And yet we all know that we still have students who are struggling or even failing. So the problem is that many students are not motivated to learn. Even with the perfect lesson plan in place, even with an unmotivated student, we cannot control everything, but we can help with motivation. Some teachers will claim that the student should show up motivated, right? It's his or her own job to come to the workplace, come to the classroom ready to do the job. However, we know that that's an old-fashioned idea, and that's going to make us an average teacher. But to be a great teacher, we recognize that students need motivation, it's necessary for learning, and that we are in the perfect position to help improve student motivation. And there's a couple different strategies that we can use. But first, I wanted to give you a little bit of background on me. So I am Debra Culler. I am new to the core faculty role within the HR programs. You'll see my experience ranges from banking and finance all the way to manufacturing and electrical suppliers. I also have a very sports-oriented family, which means motivation is huge and key with that as well. But in all my work experience, motivation was tantamount as well to achieving success, to meeting those goals and making things happen. And so I'm very passionate about motivation. I'm very passionate about seizing the moment, making the best of what we have, but also helping others to find that too. So a little bit about what I'm going to go over today. There's a couple studies out there and surveys, and the first one is from the National Bureau of Economic Research. And we're going to review the top 10 contributors to a student being excited. So they surveyed quite a few backgrounds and ages and genders with students to see kind of if there was a theme for what they're looking for, wanting most. And they have a list of top 10, but I'll tell you everything links back to that motivation as well. Then there's some information from what studies show us to help us prepare a little bit more. And then I'm going to take it all to a final conclusion for, okay, how do we actually implement motivation? What are the strategies to make sure we have it in our classroom and within our relationships with our students? So the National Bureau of Economic Research, this was the top 10 that made their list. So the first one is take me seriously. Now this means take the student seriously on they can do the work, they have a lot to bring to the table, their opinions, their perspectives, keep an open mind. Challenge me to think. Students want to be challenged, which is a great thing. We'll talk about that later. But that means we can't always have specific guidelines and detailed formats that must be ran, but also to leave things open-ended sometimes, to challenge them. Nurture my self-respect, letting them know that they have a lot of value to bring to the table. We all are unique and have something great and different to bring to the table, and showcasing that. And we can do that through that community of learners, in which we'll talk about later, but letting the students know that they can help one another, that we are a team in the classroom. Show me I can make a difference. Again, having them mentor someone, having the students interact together, but being able to relay information as well. Let me do it my way. Again, that open-ended forum, letting them use their creativity, letting them use what they feel fit best. Point me towards my goals, helping them realize the steps and the tasks that are needed to reach their goals. Make me feel important. Again, it's coming back to feeling valued and motivating them to take their skills, their talent, who they are, and bring that to the table. Build more on my interests. That means they're going to be excited, right? That means they're going to be motivated because they are engaged. And engagement is a very important thing. So letting the students share their interests, letting the students share their experiences is going to help build. Tap my creativity. Again, this relates back to motivating the student to take the format that they want, to take the open-ended idea and apply who they are, apply their own ideas, and let them formulate more. And then bring out my best self. Bring out my best self as help me tap in and see what my best qualities are, or what my unique qualities are that I can build and grow on. We all have flaws, so we all are similar in that, but make sure that we can find what makes us tick and what makes us work so we can do more and give more. And this leads into types of goals. So after they did the survey, they reviewed and went through two different kinds of goal setting: performance-based versus task-based. Now, performance-based would be what you're calling reaching for a certain grade. So you have a student saying, I really want to get an A in your class, or I want to graduate with the C average and be done, get my degree. Now, we know, and the studies show from the National Economic Bureau of Research, it was paramount that setting goals is important. Compared to the control group, a performance-based group did improve. However, it was not statistically significant. But the task-based group, on the other hand, where we steer them towards effort, we steer them towards specific tasks, keeping them motivated for small tasks that add up to get that grade. So rather than focusing on just a grade or passing a class, we are focused on getting a certain reading done. How many practice tests should we take before we take the quiz this week? Research, how much research should we be working to do each week? So these specific tasks are what we can make sure that they get that grade that they're looking for, but by breaking it down. Now, the study went on to show that low achieving students struggle with goal setting. So that's an issue in itself, right? We have a low achieving student. We want to help them get back on track, but they're going to have some struggles with goal setting. Now, of course, that's a generalization, but that's typically what the study finds. And that's going to relate to motivation because they're already struggling. They have trouble making a goal, so now they're going to lack motivation. So how do we get them back on track? Again, it's task-based goals. You've probably had a student reach out to you, I've fallen behind, how do I catch up? Can I pass your course? Because at the end of the day, that's all they're worried about is passing the course so they don't have to retake it. So this low achieving student needs guided back to those specific, small, task-based goals, getting them back on track. So laying out a timeline of how much reading they'd have to do from the chapters, how much outside research that you would expect, how they should prepare for the quiz. So specific steps towards reaching and attaining those goals will help them ensure that they then can pass the course. So it isn't enough to just say, which is almost impossible for us to determine because we don't know what effort they're going to bring to the table, right? To say, yes, you can pass the course, but breaking it down, guiding them, and then at some point, the hope is they can apply that to their real life, their real world out in the career force, right? To have those task-based goals, breaking it down. And then it doesn't seem so overwhelming as well. So the goal is to motivate the students through smaller tasks, clear expectations, And then also you are giving them those reins to do that later. Okay, so we know what students want. And it all boils down to they want to be motivated and they need to be motivated in order to achieve their goals, in order to have the growth and learning and really become a success. So the first one is 5 strategies that we're going to talk about. Promote growth mindset over fixed mindset. We're going to develop meaningful and respectful relationships with the students. Grow a community of learners in the classroom. Establish high expectations and clear goals. And then lastly, being inspirational. So let's talk about what each of these look like in the classroom. So Carol Dweck wrote a book about growth mindset over fixed mindset. Now the fixed mindset is what we're trying to avoid, but a fixed mindset means that people, students, anyone can believe that what they are born with, those certain abilities, those certain talents, they cannot be changed. Okay, so fixed mindsets, they try to prove themselves. Typically, you're going to find them shying away from challenges because they don't want to appear to be struggling. But a growth mindset, which is what we want to cultivate and what we want to make sure we're really focusing on being that mentor towards, they're going to make sure that they are cultivating and improving through hard work. Again, it comes back to their effort. They're going to expect struggles. Actually, they're going to expect failures even. They know when they're being challenged and when they're failing, they're even learning through that, okay? Which is very important for life too, not just our classroom, right? But learners with a growth mindset are going to be more motivated to work hard because they know what they're putting in as far as input will show up in their output. So how do we foster a growth mindset in the classroom? Well, one of the most powerful elements of feedback for our learners is to praise them for their efforts and praise them for their hard work. So we can talk about, I can tell that you've been really practicing on your research. I can tell that you've been really working to read the material and apply it. This is paying off. It tells the learner that they have the power to improve their academic success. So we want to stop praising by saying, you're a very good math student, or you're very smart, you're an incredible reader, because then it turns back into that fixed mindset. You know, they were born with that, that's who I am. But we want to praise for the efforts, and that's going to reinforce this. So no amount of hard work on the learner's part can change who they are, but it will change the outcome. And gradually there will be that growth, which is the goal. We can model the growth mindset by having our own courage. Ask the students for feedback. Get insight on your teaching. Get insight on being willing to make necessary changes. So the student surveys, but even engaging with the students. If there's something that people seem to be having issues or questions with, something that it kind of pops up over and over in your course, and it might not be with the material, it might just be with the delivery or your feedback. Be brave, ask for that feedback so we can make changes personally. It invites the students to continue on the learning journey with us. Students are always willing to work hard for a teacher that is also reciprocating that hard work. The second strategy, to develop meaningful and respectful relationships with the students. If we are truly going to inspire and we will truly try to motivate all of the students, we want to get to know them each on a personal level. Now, this is a harder thing to do online, but it doesn't mean that it can't be done. So we need to know their interests. We need to know their hobbies. We need to know what they're doing, their family situations, what gets them excited. Each student is going to require different motivational strategies, and we have to know them to be able to predict what strategies might work. Now, we don't get a lot of time for that one-on-one, but we do know that when we allow students to allow for them to share good news, and when we are sharing and being vulnerable ourselves with sharing good news or something that's happened in our lives, it opens up this opportunity to learn about each other. They see us as people, not just someone behind the screen grading. It's an avenue for teachers to share details about our lives outside of school. And when we share personally, students are more likely to do the same. So in the student lounge, when they're introducing themselves and they're sharing, that interaction is so important. To congratulate them on their new baby or their marriage or whatever's going on in their life. Maybe they've just ran a marathon. Little things like that that makes a big impact. We all learn differently in the classroom. We all have different types of learning styles that impact us. but we know that it's our responsibility to connect with the students as much as we can. We can do that through email, we can do that through signals as well, but the goal is to keep that forum open for the outside of school, not just for what's happening in the classroom. We're going to work to grow a community of leaders in the classroom. I'm sorry, grow a community of learners, but it will lead to leadership too. So students need a classroom environment that's safe. They want to be willing to take risks and willing to struggle. Without that, we know that there's not going to be as much growth. So to achieve this, students and the teachers should work together. We should have common collective goals. Students must be willing to work and assist other students in the class. So we have a student community, which a lot of times I always remind my students that we are a team. In the discussion forum for the general questions and answers, I always let them know if somebody posts something and you know the answer, help them out. We're here working with and for each other. And a lot of times when we teach and when we relay, we learn even more. So it is a group effort. Traditional teaching would consist of the lectures and students taking notes, but we know that when we have a collaborative group, they're going to be more engaged and they're going to be more motivated. So now students can digest information, they can ask questions collectively, and this isn't just in our question discussion forum. This can be in all of the discussion forums, which is why we have the interaction, why they're posting questions and interactions with each other to foster and grow that student community. Again, struggle is expected, struggle is encouraged. And then the last thing is to display student work. Now, a lot of times I don't like to display a template where students are feeling like they have to follow it, again, because we're losing that creativity. There might be some assignment that it's required, but sometimes it's nice to proudly display work. It sends a message to students that they're active participants in creating knowledge in the classroom. That it is not just the teacher, myself, being the sole holder of knowledge. So teachers can use language that promotes the community of learners, which means rather than say I and me and you, or saying we and our. So we talk about our classroom culture and we talk about what we need to work to do together to achieve success. And then the fourth strategy is establish high expectations and clear goals. Setting high expectations and supporting students as they struggle are going to allow them to meet those expectations. When expectations are transparent, they are as clear as can be, students know where their learning is headed, and they are again motivated. So we know that they see that the path is visible and they're more likely to work for it, those efforts. Same thing as in the workplace, and it's no different in the classroom. When we are unsure of expectations, it greatly increases our stress, right? We don't know what's going to happen. So it's very important to make that path visible. This means we're working to have daily, weekly goals that give a student a purpose, that give them a meaning for the hard work that they do. Now, based upon our classroom setup, typically weekly goals are going to be the best avenue, but it doesn't mean that you can't interject throughout the week with something. So these weekly goals, they can be statements, they can be learning targets that are posted and they're visible and we reference them, but it's going to establish something at the start of a lesson and it gives a purpose for their learning. So something that they can assess themselves on at the end of each lesson, beyond what their assignment grade is, beyond what their quiz score was. So what we are looking to do is not assume that the students know expectations, but we clearly outline it and really hold their hand to teach them how to do these weekly smaller goals and hold them accountable as well. So for instance, it could be something, if there was an article that you shared that you thought would be very applicable for that week, letting them know, work to get this done by Wednesday night as it's really going to help you for your discussion on Thursday. Something of that nature to let them know a specific deadline, a specific goal that's going to help you reach your other goals. And then lastly, being inspirational. We can probably all think of a teacher from our childhood or even from our adulthood who had a lasting impact. So this teacher probably inspired you, challenged you, and motivated you that you can still remember them years later. So what makes teachers inspirational? Basically, an inspirational teacher is going to represent success to their students. And this can be any type of success. Again, this is where we're being vulnerable, and we're going to share who we are outside the classroom. For some examples could be like completing a 10K race, maybe owning a small business and what you've learned and what you've grown with that business. Or it could be receiving a teaching award. But as we share our successes and our triumphs, we show the students what it looks like to go after things. But we also show them what we sacrificed, what we gave up as far as time and extracurriculars to achieve those goals. And they're going to pay close attention to our behaviors and choices, and even what sacrifices led us to that success. So again, they see that we can fail forward, we can struggle and still get there. Our behaviors are going to showcase the hard work, the willingness to struggle, and also the ability to learn from our mistakes. And when a student internalizes those behaviors, and then they internalize those strategies, they see that they can accomplish their own goals. So now we've given them an opportunity to take those everyday routines, those everyday assignments, and the things they encounter in the classroom to make it motivational. And the last thing is, as we tell our students that we're proud of them when we see improvement, and when a student gets back on track, or they're doing excellent and you're telling them to keep up the good work. I read a statement that said, in order to help a student be intrinsically motivated, we have to remind them that they should be proud of themselves. So sometimes the language might adjust to say, you should be so proud of yourself. Look at what you have achieved. Letting them know, and it's okay to say you're proud of them as well, but remind them that they should be proud of themselves. So then they start to get that motivation internally, and it doesn't always have to be from outside factors. And that is the overall goal, right? To motivate every single day and show students what is possible on their learning path. I wanted to share my references that I used for this. And as always, I would love feedback. If you have any questions, we'll go over some questions, but also anything that you've used, anything you've used for motivation or to help inspire or engage the students more. I would always love to hear your feedback as well.
So go ahead and post some questions. We have a couple in the chat, and hopefully we'll get some good discussion. So I'm going to take my video off, and Deborah, go ahead and.
Let's see here. I have a question here on specific suggestions for dealing with larger class sizes. The strategies remain the same. Your outreach is probably going to be a little more formalized with templates because of time constraints, but it would still be something that you can use your forums, maybe in the post your introduction where you're sharing more about something that you've done recently, or sacrifices that you've given up to achieve your goals to help drive being that mentor and that leader. I think that's the only question that was in there. And if anybody has any feedback, I'm open. Love to hear what's working in your classroom as well. Do you see any other questions, Stephanie?
Oh, there was just one more. Basically, for consideration, how can we get to know students with an empathetic intent and avoid potential us and them thinking?
Yeah, I think the goal is to build a relationship. You definitely, we want to have the playing field a little more even versus we're up here and you're down here kind of thing. So I completely agree with that us and them thinking. That's definitely not the intent or the goal, but the goal is to foster that relationship, right? So the student feels valued, the student feels welcomed, and that there is recognition on their end as well. So it might be small steps, small goals, again, those task-based goals that we're still praising them for, we're still giving recognition for, because those are very valuable. It doesn't have to be the end result for your career, right? We know every single step leading up to that is just as important.
There was another one from Peggy. I like the recommendation to set high expectations, but to break down the goal into manageable steps. Can you give an example of doing this in the classroom?
Yes, a lot of times I'll have students who maybe if they're struggling and trying to get back on track, or maybe if they have a certain goal to get a certain grade in the course, I try to break it down into the tasks rather than that performance. So it can be based upon, all right, from my experience, I know that you're going to look to have this many outside resources to include with your textbook, and you're going to look to spend this amount of time to really have a great final paper if that's what they're questioning. So I'm giving them specific tasks that I know will help them learn the material, apply the material, and give those real world examples. And that's kind of based upon my HR background, but whether it's finance or what courses, you can break it down into what you know is going to help them achieve that final goal. So those tasks that are going to be necessary.
I don't see anything else at the moment. Lots of thank yous and great presentation.
Good.
So if we don't have anything else, I'm going to wait another 20 seconds.
That's fine.
Connections are good to make, absolutely. In the meantime, I'm just letting you know that the recording will be found on the CETL YouTube channel, CETL website, and Ask CETL as well, probably in a day or so. So in case you need to watch it again, and please fill out the survey, which I will post in the chat one more time. And it looks like we don't have any other questions.
There's
I
a couple questions
appreciate
on professional development. Did you see those? Will this be on the professional development page?
Yes, it will. It'll be, I'm not sure which section, but it'll be in the Colloquia page as well. But you can always email me and I can send it to you directly as well.
And then there's one more question. Is there a certificate to print?
No, but it might be a good idea for the future. So definitely we'll put that in my mind for the future, but not right this time, there is not. And it will probably be on the engagement section of the professional development page in CETL. All right. Well, I appreciate the presentation, Deborah. I think you did a great job.
Thank you for
And if
having
you
me. I
have-
appreciate it.
Of course. And if you have any further questions, feel free to reach out. Otherwise, stay healthy. And thank you very much for attending.